Hey guys, welcome back to another tier list. Sorry it's been a few weeks. Haven't gotten around to doing one in a little while, so I thought I'd knock one off today. Yeah, and I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so excuse me if my voice sounds a bit off or anything like that. But um, yeah, obviously by the title, we're going to be ranking all of the Coen Brothers films from worst to best on a tier list. I've also included The Tragedy of Macbeth, which is a recent film that only Joel Coen made. But all these other films were done by both Joel and Ethan Coen, besides the final film, which was just Joel. And I believe Ethan Coen has a film of his own coming out later on this year as well, so that should be interesting. But anyway, all these films here are in order of when they came out. So a couple of them I haven't seen for a long time, and I've only seen once off, so I really need to rewatch a few of these because my ranking would probably change after watching them. But yeah, they are one of my favorite film directing duos. They've made like consistently great films. I own or most of their films, to be honest, on Blu-ray, like over half of their films, and there are more I'd like to get as well. So yeah, let's get started with Blood Simple. So this is a film, their first film from 1984. It's kind of like a noir thriller, really dark film with some dark humor in there as well. Kind of showcasing half of their style already from the get-go. But I wasn't a huge fan of this film, to be honest. I didn't think it was bad, but there was nothing that stood out to me that I liked about it, really. But I haven't seen it in a long time, like probably 8 or 9 years. So my ranking would probably change after rewatching it. But for now, it's probably a D. And I know that probably seems really low for most people here, but it's not a bad movie. There was nothing that stood out to me that was so great about it. But yeah, I probably need to rewatch it. Next is Raising Arizona, which is one of my personal favorites of theirs. And I actually rewatched this just a couple of weeks ago. Well, actually, probably only a week ago, and yeah, it was a really good movie. It's really funny. It's one of their funniest films. It really takes a completely different turn from Blood Simple. Nicolas Cage and Holly Hunter are great in this film. It's a solid A film. It's almost an S tier film for me. Even there's just a few things holding it back. But yeah, the two leads are great. John Goodman was also great and really funny. It's probably like it's just got so much like slapstick, cartoonish humor in it that works really well. And there's a lot of screaming in the film as well. But yeah, it's a really fun movie. Miller's Crossing is a film I'm not a huge fan of. I actually rewatched it recently because I hadn't seen it in a long time, kind of like Blood Simple. Yeah, I thought it was better than I thought it was the first time, but I still didn't think it was great, so I'm going to put it in C. Miller's Crossing has great scenes in the movie, but as a whole, it just doesn't really do it for me. But yeah, like I said, it's good and it's got great scenes, but as a whole film, it just kind of lacks something, and a lot of the characters aren't really likable or characters that you can latch onto either. So yeah, there wasn't really much relatability with that film. Next up, we have Barton Fink, which is another of my favorites, and that's a solid A tier film as well. Again, I rewatched this one just within the last week, and it's a great film. I really enjoy Barton Fink, especially all the scenes that take place in the actual hotel with John Turturro's character and John Goodman. They're like the scene stealers really in this film, and every scene between the two of them in the hotel, which like the hotel scenes probably take up 60 to 70% of the movie, so most of it is there. The other stuff is John Turturro going around town, like to meetings and things like that, trying to get this film off the ground. But yeah, everything that takes place in the hotel is like S tier pretty much, but the other stuff I didn't really care for too much, so kind of brings it down to the A tier. But still, it's a great film overall with some great performances, and possibly my favorite John Goodman performance as well. Next up, we have The Hudsucker Proxy, and I felt similarly to this as I did Blood Simple. I think I actually like this film a little bit more, but it's still a D tier film. Tim Robbins is really good, and Jennifer Jason Leigh and Paul Newman are good. I've never really felt like rewatching it, though. Like, it does have a great visual aesthetic to it and performances, but the story I couldn't really get behind, and like it lost me a bit. And yeah, it started strong, but then yeah, it just kind of got a bit boring and dull, I think. So I wasn't a huge fan of this film. Next up, we have the classic Fargo. So this is a movie that most people would have as their like top 3 Coen Brothers films, and I do like this movie. I don't think it's great. This is another one that I've got to rewatch because I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but it is really good, and it's at least a B tier. It could change for me after watching it again because I'm planning on seeing it again, but it's definitely a B tier at least because it's better than these films. It's quite possibly as good as these films as well, but it is a good movie, and I really like the TV series that it spawned all these years later as well. But yeah, Fargo is a really interesting and funny film. It's really got all the Coen signature styles all through it. So yeah, at least it's a B tier. Like it wouldn't be any lower than that. And same goes for The Big Lebowski for me. That's another B tier film. I had this in A originally, but I watched it a few days ago as well, and I like the film quite a bit, but I don't love it. And it's another one that most people have in like the S tier. And I think it's really funny. It's got its moments, but I also think that it's a bit overrated in some areas. Like it's funny, but I don't think it's as funny as Raising Arizona or some of his other films. The characters are what's great about the film, like Jeff Bridges as the dude, and you've got John Goodman as Walter, and Steve Buscemi in his small role as Donnie is pretty funny. But yeah, it's just kind of like there's some great scenes within the film, especially all the bowling scenes. But in between all that, there's a lot of stuff that I felt was a bit convoluted and unnecessary and all that. So it's still a solid film. It's a solid B movie. Next we have Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And this is another solid A film for me. I really enjoyed this movie, and this is another one I'm planning on rewatching hopefully within the next few days. It's just a really fun adventure kind of film about these guys who have escaped prison and that, and it's like all these adventures that they're kind of on to free themselves. But it's a real Coen Brothers film in its feel and its dialogue and its music and everything. So I always have really enjoyed this film, so it's definitely a good solid A film for me. The Man Who Wasn't There is also a really underrated Coen Brothers film. This movie I rewatched like today actually, and I really enjoy this movie. I think it's underrated. I think it's a high B tier. It could possibly be higher than these two films. I actually did like it more than The Big Lebowski after rewatching it. I'm not sure about Fargo yet, but for now I'll just put it at the top of the B tier. I think it's one of their most underrated films. I think it's really well shot, well acted. The music's great. It kind of it's this neo-noir. Oh, sorry, not neo-noir. It's this film noir kind of style and vibe to it with a bit of a mystery. And yeah, it doesn't have as much of his humor in this film, but like it really works. And I think it is super underrated, as I've already said. But yeah, Billy Bob Thornton gives a great performance. Frances McDormand's back. James Gandolfini, Scarlett Johansson in like one of her earlier roles. So yeah, definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard of that one. So next we have Intolerable Cruelty, and this film is easily their worst film in my opinion. I'm going to chuck it in the F tier because it's kind of like the most generic, cliched rom-com that you'll ever see, like a midday movie almost, and it's really lacking in like their style and humor and everything. Like the only thing I enjoyed about the movie was the opening scene with Jeffrey Rush and the pool guy, which was pretty funny, but it was like literally the opening scene, and then everything from then on was just pretty average and pretty bad. So I think it's their only F tier film for my money. But yeah, it's always at the bottom of their lists when you look up their lists and all that, so it's kind of renowned for being pretty bad. And so is the next film, The Lady Killers, but my opinion differs on this one because I actually enjoy this film and I don't understand all the hate for it. Again, I don't think it's like one of their best films or anything, but I think it's a really funny comedy, and it's really silly, and it's got that slapstick style like Raising Arizona, but set in the South. And the film looks great. It has a really crazy over-the-top performance from Tom Hanks and a few other actors. J.K. Simmons is pretty funny in it, and I think it's Marlon Wayans who's in it too. But yeah, it's an enjoyable film. Like I don't think it's bad at all. It's probably I'll probably put it in the C tier. So I know some people probably want to kill me for putting this above Blood Simple, but I actually really enjoy The Lady Killers, and I want them to bring it out on Blu-ray so I can get that, because that would be awesome. Because I just think it's a really fun movie, and I laugh quite a lot while watching it usually, because it's just really over the top and silly, but in a good way. So that's definitely one of the more underrated films of theirs, I think, as well. Next, we have No Country for Old Men, which is an obvious S tier. Like, everybody loves this film, and it's easily their best film, in my opinion. Like, technically, acting, dialogue, the tension, like, it's a really suspenseful modern Western thriller, and it works so well. Like, it doesn't have any of their humor, but it's just a really great and tense film, like super tense. Like, Javier Bardem, I think, is the villain, and he's great in this movie. He's like one of the best film villains of all time. He's just so scary and so intense. And then Josh Brolin, Tommy Lee Jones, everyone else is really solid in the film. It's definitely a very high, solid S tier film. So next we have Burn After Reading. This is another, they've gone back to like a silly screwball kind of comedy for this film. And this film's good. I like it. I don't love it. I'm going to put it in the C tier, behind The Lady Killers, because I don't think it's even as good as that. It has its moments. It's quite funny here and there, but yeah, it's definitely an improvement over something like Intolerable Cruelty, but at the same time, I think it kind of misses the mark on a few things, but it's okay. A Serious Man is a film I really like by these guys. It's another A tier film. It's kind of like a modern retelling of Job, like from the Bible, through this Jewish family, and it's actually really good. I really enjoy the movie. I enjoy the crazy opening scene that's kind of like has nothing to do with the rest of the film, but it kind of goes hand in hand with what the film preaches a bit, which is like this guy looking for meaning in everything, but everything that's getting thrown at him is just, he's like, what's going on with my life? You know, it's falling to pieces pretty much, and he's not finding any meaning or any resolution anywhere. And it's got a great soundtrack as well. It's very ominous, great performances, great visual look to it. Yeah, it's a really solid movie, and I have to check that one out again too. Next we have True Grit. This is a remake, I think, or kind of a retelling of an old film or a book. I do like it. I think it's a solid Western film, and it's definitely a B tier. I'll put it below these films though. It's not one of their films I've returned to all that often, but I do enjoy it whenever I watch it. It's a solid film. It's not one of their best, not one of their worst. It's kind of in the middle somewhere, so I'll chuck it there for now. Next we have Inside Llewyn Davis. I've only seen this once a long time ago, and I didn't like it much at all. I know a lot of people love this film. I think the movie looks great and is well acted, but maybe I just have to rewatch it because it didn't really stick with me much at all. So as of now, I'd probably put it at the bottom of the D tier, just because I didn't like the film much at all, other than its visual style and everything like that, as I said. But yeah, it might be a film I have to check out again. Hail Caesar. This is a film I remember seeing in cinemas with my brother and a friend. I was really excited to see this, but I was a little bit disappointed by it. It was funny, it had its moments, but I think it was a bit convoluted and over the top. Had some great characters, some great visuals, so it was very much a hit and miss film for me, because there were moments of it that I thought were hilarious and moments that I loved, but then a lot of it as well just kind of dragged and didn't seem to go anywhere that interesting. So I think I like it better than these D tier films, so I reckon I'll chuck it at the bottom of the C tier because it kind of feels like Burn After Reading. Like, that's where I'd put it next to that one. They're kind of equal in my mind, I guess. So I'll chuck that in the C tier. So the last film that the Coens did together was the Ballad of Buster Scruggs in 2018, which was like an anthology film on Netflix, and it was made up of 6 short stories set in the Wild West. And I really liked this movie quite a bit. And of the 6 short films, I really liked 4 of them. And one of them I thought was just okay, and then one of them I thought was really boring and average. So it kind of equals out to a B for me, I'd say, but I'll put it above True Grit. I'll probably put it there for now because there's some really, really great scenes. I love the Ballad of Buster Scruggs short film at the beginning. I love the second one with James Franco. I loved the one with the gold prospector. Tom Waits, I think, played him. And I really enjoyed the last one, which was all the guys in the stagecoach traveling somewhere at night. And it kind of felt like a Tarantino scene. But I really wasn't a fan of the short with Liam Neeson. I thought that was really boring and depressing. And there was another one that was really long, about a girl on the frontier, like with these people traveling. I can't remember much about that one, but I remember just thinking that was kind of average too. So it kind of evens out to a B because most of them I really enjoyed, and the film overall is solid. And it's actually one I'd like to get on Blu-ray, but it's a Netflix film, so they don't do that, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a solid B tier film for the most part. But yeah, if those other shorts were better, it could have been boosted up into the A, I reckon. So next we have The Tragedy of Macbeth. So this was just written and directed by Joel Coen, obviously based on the old Shakespeare play and story. And I'm going to put this one in the B tier as well, but probably at the bottom. I did like the movie quite a bit. I thought the visuals were incredible. Like, it's one of the most striking looking films that they've ever made, or that he's ever made. Had this, it was black and white, and it just I think it was shot on sound stages. It really looked like it was anyway. But yeah, great performances by Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand in the leads. They used all the old language and everything like that, which was pretty cool. Overall, it's probably the best version of Macbeth I've seen, but I'm not huge on it. Like, it's a B film. It's good, but it's not great. So that's where it's going to sit for me at the moment, I think. So that's all of the Coen Brothers films for now, guys. As I said, Ethan Coen is supposed to be releasing a new film later this year, but it would be cool if they got back together and started making movies together again, because yeah, most of their films are really solid. Like, even all these C tier films, I enjoy these films, and obviously all the ones above it. So yeah, if you haven't seen any of these ones that are, B or higher, definitely check them out. And let me know your list in the comments below. Please subscribe, and hopefully I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.